also welcome to the third episode of Incite, where we will be talking about money, power and greed. Three things that control people's lives, that destroy people, that make people. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by Steve Gomez, the co-host. Welcome back on the show. How are we doing?
Thank you. It's been great. And I've just spent the last hour with Rory, with him crawling under tables and putting wires into different things and taking wires out. It's been a really interesting production so far. So I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, that it's all going to work out and that the recordings are working. And it's good. I'm looking forward to this, actually, Rory, despite the fact I've spent like an hour and a half waiting for him to get sorted.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. I'm pulling his legs.
Oh, my goodness. If anyone saw what goes on behind the scenes, they would be like, how does it even happen?
Yeah, really professional. But he's great. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. He's plugging wires in all sorts of places, and it's like, yeah. Anyway, it's a lovely Sunday morning, and we're ready to go. Happy Mother's Day for all the mothers. We have to say that. I want to say happy Mother's Day to my mother, Rory, your mum. Happy Mother's Day.
Best mum in the world. Yeah.
Best mum in the world, and all the mums that are out there. We're sending love, lots of love to mums.
Yeah,
mums.
100%. Because it's incredible, isn't it? Bringing life into the world. But so this is a subject that I think is we've had two subjects, and I thought that they've been really big things people can relate to. But this subject, I think, even just a bit more people can relate to and think how much this controls people. Because especially for young people, a big motivator is money, is power, is an array of things. So I guess first, it's difficult how to start this, but what would you say power and money are in essence?
It's what drives this world, isn't it, in many respects? And, Rory and I agreed we weren't going to get too political with these podcasts, and we weren't going to. But it's very difficult, given the current climate and discussing money, power and greed, not to dip into politics. So we probably will, because, money, power, greed, it seems to be the three things that run this world. Which is a sad situation. I'd much rather be saying to you that it's joy, love, contentment, fulfillment that run this world. But it isn't. And this is why it's important for us to talk about this, because it is, those three are so interrelated. Money, power and greed. They're just the sort of the holy trinity or the sort of demonic trinity of the enemy. You can't think about the world and how it is without looking at money, power and greed. And I was thinking, how are we going to discuss this? Because they're so interrelated. And we could look at power, we could look at money, we could look at greed, but they're all interrelated. And I challenge anybody to look at power and imagine someone who wants power without money and greed, and then look at the whole context of money, again, without power and greed, and then to consider greed without money and power. They're just interrelated. And the problem is, it seems to be that money, power and greed are the mainstay for those that seek to be in a position of authority. And I've got a couple of quotes which I want to bring up, and I don't want to bring them up too soon because I think they're little gems.
Well, let's start talking about like more about the meaning of life. Why do you think people chase money and power so much in life? Because as young people who are lost, the go-to response is they want to work on themselves, make money, be successful, successful career, big car, big house. More and more now, it's more about Lamborghini, flashy cars, Andrew Tate, all that. That's more of a bigger thing, I think, for young men especially. Obviously, some girls want that. You see that. But it's becoming more prominent for young men to really desire that. What's behind that, do you think?
I think what's behind it is a broken society. And I think that... as we've discussed before, my favourite two words, and I know I said this thing about using the word narcissistic, and I know, but you and I have discussed this on numerous occasions, that we appear to be in a society where the narcissistic psychopaths are the ones that seem to be have the most power. Now, when you said a lot of young men, and in many cases some more and more young women. And I don't mean to be sexist there, but it's always traditionally been money, power, and greed seems to be the realm of men. And obviously there are numerous women who've been after that. But for me, I think that the role models in our society exhibit those qualities. And I think what happens is it corrupts the young. It corrupts people who maybe won't want to do that. Now, I don't know about you, Rory, but I've never really wanted power. I'd like to have money. And I think when I was younger, when you're younger, you think money is going to provide all the answers. And greed is the desire to accumulate as much as you can. Power is the ability to control your environment to the greatest extent that you are the most powerful, if you want it that way. That's the ultimate pinnacle of power. And money will be part of that because it finances whatever you want to achieve. And it's bizarre how money and power, if you look at politicians, for example, okay, and this is what totally gets my head, because we have voted for these people. And in the old days, the politicians were our servants. They were like civil servants. They played a role in government to serve us. Okay, and since when has it become that, especially in the States, the politicians have become these power-hungry, extremely wealthy, greedy individuals?
So staying on track of it, so you speak about role models. Why are people so focused on? It's funny because all the stuff we've covered in the podcast so far have all interlinked. It's individualism again.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Because it's why do people want to accumulate? Why do people want power? Because of themselves, because they want status. And one thing I've been thinking about a lot is how money and everything is to do with insecurity. It's a nice plaster because you don't have to face real shit. So if you have money, you don't need to focus your value of virtuous acts like kindness or loving someone or I don't know, helping somebody. That's not you don't need to focus on that because your admiration is already covered from your car, your house, your Lamborghini, whatever. And I think that it's based upon the plaster of virtue that you're running away from real virtue and you're masking it in false gods of cars and stuff. But what's kind of your thoughts?
Oh, well, the desire for money, as we've said before, the root of all evil is the love of money. And you're right. I think there is this belief that if you surround yourself with money, and if you are a very wealthy person, supremely wealthy, then you can do what you like. What I will say about money is it doesn't bring you happiness, but it gives you choice. Okay, and from that point of view, I'd like to have a lot of money because it'll give me choice in what I can do on a day-to-day basis. I'm not constrained by the normal requirements that most people have. I don't know if you know Maslow's hierarchy of need. It's an interesting concept, a construct of, the basic needs of human beings going up levels until you get to the pinnacle, which is self-actualization and making something of your intellect. If any of you don't know about it, look up Maslow's hierarchy of need. And so what money does is it pushes you up that level. The sad thing is that those who have a lot of money tend to still work on the basic level of frippery, of buying expensive clothes, buying expensive things to have around them. And what you've got to ask yourself is, what is that need? Why is it that people desire money in order to accumulate these things? Because in the many years that I've lived on this earth, I've realized that actually it is not the objects that we have and surround us that make us happy. It is, as we discussed in previous podcasts, it's the relationships you have, and we talked about Solomon, saying, enjoy your life, enjoy your food, and enjoy your work. Okay. And that doesn't mean covering yourself with the best designer clothes and buying yourself a posh car. And I think if you're trapped in that state of thinking, then you really need to look at yourself, because if your whole basis of being is to accumulate things and to have wealth so that you can, in some respects, show off to other people, and I think that also adds to it, isn't it?
It's
There's
the
a
validation.
Yeah.
And why is that validation? Because, like what I linked to, is because virtuous acts they're not striving towards, and it's easier to be insecure based on, like, there's more room for insecurity when you don't have things in society that looked up upon, like money. So if you don't have money, your emotions can hit harder because you have less of a defense to the harsh reality of life. And that's why I respect people who live in poverty, because they're saying, I'm just going to live for other people. And if they want to change that, they're exposed, because they don't have a plaster where they can just chuck money at things, or there's no plaster. It's just they're in reality. And it's something where people got to think about, I think, in life. If you're just stripped to your bones, a naked human being, what are you? And it's a daunting question. It really is a daunting question. And it's why I see some people say stuff like, well, I'm just going to focus on getting money or wealth or whatever. And they might kind of manipulate and lie to themselves about the motives there. They might say, well, because this, because that. When actually, at your heart, you know that that's not the reason. It's because you want some sort of plaster. But also, I think people who live kind of good lives and have good upbringings, I believe it's a moral duty for those people to live for other people. I believe it's a duty for people to be kind. I don't think it's this thing, and some people are like, oh, well, that's nice, they do that. It's like, hang on, no, I think there is a moral duty. If you have had two loving parents, for instance, I think it's a moral duty to give back to society for people who didn't have two loving parents and actually help people. And like, it's interesting because some people you meet and in school or whatever, and they have that mindset, and then you meet them after and you realize they haven't changed. And it's incredible how so many people can live in a sheltered box where they are still the gods of their own lives. Like, no one has actually came and like ripped them out of that. And that's why I really love what we're doing with this podcast, because I'm hoping there'll be people listening and it'll be like, oh shit, I never even thought about what am I actually doing with my life. And then it kind of rips them out of that oyster of plastic that they've been living in.
It's interesting because again, forgive me if you've heard me say this before, but our society seems to determine success on the accumulation of wealth. And you know that story I've told about how.
Say again. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
I'll tell the story again. It was again during a dark time of my life, a difficult time. I'd gone to see the prior at Alton Abbey. God bless him, Prior Andrew. He was such an amazing man. I think he's still around. Actually, I shouldn't speak about him in the past tense, but it was like sitting at the feet of Jesus, really listening to him. And I'll never forget when he said to me, he said, what are your regrets in life? What do you regret? And I sort of thought for a moment and said, well, I regret I wasn't more successful. And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean by successful? And I said, well, successful in my business, successful in achieving the goals what goals are they? He said. And I said, well, being, wealthy and sort of successful. That's what I hadn't realised up until that point that really that's what I'd been doing. I'd been trying to succeed. And part of it was wanting people to look up to me and say, wow, look how successful he is. Everybody sort of seeks after the successful man. And I was shocked when he turned around and he said, look, do you mind if we get rid of that word? And I said, what are we going to replace it with? And he said, can we replace it with fulfillment? Yeah, fulfillment. And I remember thinking, wow, gosh, that turns everything upside down, because, actually success is a dirty word, really, because it's a yardstick with which you measure people, and I don't want to go into anything too personal, but I had a situation where I had a close friend who was very proud of saying how successful they were compared to other people, and comparing themselves because they were more successful. And I was like thinking, shouldn't you let other people say that, really? That's not about you telling how successful you are. But there's something dirty about that. And the sad thing is that if you are focused on being successful, now, I understand that if you have exams and you want to do well, then you should, push yourselves. But why are you pushing yourselves to do well? Why are you doing that? And I mean, I think in some respects, a lot of children at school, and I mean, I don't know about your time at school. I know you really struggled. Me too. I was useless at school. I really was. I was too busy mucking around. But when I look at the amount of homework, the amount of pressure that kids are put under now, it is ridiculous. The rules and regulations that kids have. We went to school and, okay, we learned, but we mucked around a lot and we were able to have that freedom. Whereas now, I understand in some schools, you're not allowed to touch anybody. You're not allowed to actually physically touch anybody. I mean that because I've got a friend of mine whose son is at one of the more difficult schools in Portsmouth. And she was telling me that they're not allowed to physically touch each other.
Wow.
Okay, so, how do you play it?
Yeah.
How can you play any game? But the point what I'm trying to say is that the schools have become factories to make people successful. But where is the school that tries to give people real fulfillment in achieving things that uplift you and make you feel an inner joy, rather than trying to get happiness, which is an interesting thing, and I want to come back to happiness in a minute. It says in the Declaration of Right, the US Constitution, the pursuit of happiness. And it's interesting, I watched something recently where Jesus actually never mentioned the word happiness. It's really interesting. He never talked about happiness. He talked about peace. Okay. And I differentiate happiness and joy, for example. So for me, something makes you happy because it's an external. So if I give you a present, Rory, you're happy because you've got the present. If you buy yourself something, you're happy. It's very momentary. And you've got to keep making yourself happy. You've got to do things to buy things to make you happy, and all this happiness. I'm happy, happy, happy. It's a little bit childish. It's what children want to be happy. But joy, I think, is sort of like a deep acceptance of fulfillment and satisfaction. So you feel joy. If you, for example, take ages to make an Airfix model, okay, and you do it really well, it doesn't make you happy. You're filled with joy. It's accomplishment. You've accomplished something, and so that's kind of, I think, an important shift in the way people think about things, because everybody pursues happiness, and within that joy comes that peace. And I will tell you, having had a relatively traumatic life with a lot of moving parts in my life, I think I've done far more than a lot of people. When you can find peace in your life, when you can find the ability to sit on your own and enjoy your own company, which I do struggle to do sometimes. But I have found times when I've just sat on my own and I thought, actually, do you know what? Like I've often said, be still and know that I'm God, is an amazing meditation, is to sit quietly and try and find that fulfillment. But this pressure to constantly strive and do something. Now, if we look at it from this perspective, okay, the powers that be that run this world want us to be productive. Why do they want us to be productive? Because we're slaves. Why do you want your slaves to be productive? Because your slaves will then, by their productivity, increase your wealth, if you see what I'm saying. And I think it's a sad situation in our life that, we are forced into getting a mortgage. What does mortgage mean, Rory?
Debt.
Death grip. Death gauge grip.
Blimey.
Mortgage means death grip. So why you're encouraged to go into a death grip where literally the bank owns you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not staunchly against mortgages in the sense, because I like the idea of owning property. But
I'm totally with you on that.
But about what you said about school, because I relate to that massively, because I fucking hated every second. Oh my goodness. And you're right. Like, there's a good and kind of on that point of happiness, I think is spot on. But there's a great quote which I saw, which was the teacher was going around asking people what they want to be. They said, I want to be a scientist, I want to be this, I want to be that. Then one person said, I want to be fulfilled. You know, that's what people's goals in life should be. It shouldn't be to be something, because the reason you want to be something is like, it's very little. It's actually you wanting to be that. It's validation. It's a plaster of insecurity. And I'm a culprit of this as well. Like, when I earn money, I know that helps me in things of me being less insecure about certain things, or can help me with certain things. And I know that is a false god, and I need to watch that. And so many people don't realize that, and they get controlled by money, and they think money is the answer, money this, money that. And you can just see it when you actually meet someone who isn't controlled by money, actually how much of a blessing that person is to so many people in their lives. And I'll give you an example. I have a good friend of mine who he's a guy, and he just lives for other people. He said to me, he doesn't even check how much he has in the bank, as long as he can turn his lights on in his flat. He is like, I don't know anyone who's more kind of joyous and doing more, and like, you could argue fulfilled, really. And this is a guy who doesn't even check his bank balance. And through that right there is true happiness and love and contentment. And anyone who is riding on the horse of money or wealth or fame, like, you, in the moment, you could convince yourself there's a valid reason behind that. But I think that on your deathbed, you really have to think about, how have I impacted people's lives? Like, it's a big question to think about, but I think it can be a great steering direction for you, because when you're always caught up in money, and we spoke about money a lot, but I think it's so prevalent, because everyone listening can relate to that. Everyone listening can relate to the strive for money. And I run into the trap, for instance, where when I see someone who, let's say they've done a lot, they've ran a massive business, they've got loads of money, I run into the trap being like, oh, they're very successful. Like, why do I do that? And then I meet some guy who's not well off, and he might be very happy, but I don't call him successful. And I'm corrupted just as much as everyone is with that.
We have been corrupted. We have, and it's been hundreds of years in the making. What's interesting is that when Jesus came, he spoke about poverty. And we've covered this in some of the previous podcasts, but isn't it interesting that the closest person to God talks about the deceitfulness of wealth? Now, that's really powerful, because what he's saying to you is, don't go after these things. They'll corrupt you. There's a corrupting influence with surrounding yourself and desiring money. And I've got some quotes which I'd like to read in a minute. And just going back to the mortgage thing, I haven't got a problem with having the money to buy a property. I think we should all be able to own our property. And in some respects, money is the transactional energy. It's the energy exchange, isn't it, really? That's the way some people refer to it. That one replaces, if I want to buy the property off you, this is the energy exchange. I give you money and you give me the property. Now, we can do that, generally speaking, and we were able to do it when I was growing up. I think properties were multiples of your income. So they calculated your ability to buy a property on 2.5 times or 3 times your income. Okay. Now, the average income in Britain, I think, is about £25,000, which means that the average property price should be around the £75,000 mark. And, when was the last time you saw a house for £75,000?
You won't even see that in
more, even little houses, which I would think would be a starter property, at 250, 300,000. Now, the reason that this has grown and that asset prices have increased dramatically is because banks facilitate that increase, because banks lend on the basis of money, and they make their money from interest, usury, which is illegal in the Bible. And the banks work on the basis that a bank can only make money if it's lending. Okay, the more it lends, the more money it makes. So if it can manipulate asset prices to constantly keep increasing, which is why we have this thing called inflation, because no one really has explained to me how inflation, because economics is load of bullshit. It's like psychology. Seriously, it's a made up way of trying to validate something that is not. You can't validate it. So interest rates and inflation. So all of a sudden people say, well, inflation is a reflection of the money supply in the economy. Okay, and therefore all the prices have to keep going up. Well, actually, for thousands of years before we had banks and things like that, properties stayed relatively stable. And if you look at the history of properties, and you go back and you look at the line of property, it was static. It didn't go up, and it was only in the sort of 60s and 70s that you've got this ridiculous peak, and that was the greed that banks were able to manipulate markets, manipulate asset prices to the point where you are now, the vast majority of people listening to this may not, unless things change, be able to buy a house. You'll be trapped in renting for the rest of your life because the kind of multiples you need to buy a house, you're not going to do it.
You need to have and just for the deposit,
exactly.
You need a lot of money.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that this has all been, and the point at which you realise how corrupt our world is, just how unbelievably greedy and corrupt it is. So. The bankers have pushed prices up and keep pushing prices up because then they can report bigger and bigger profits. Have you seen the profits that British Gas have recently produced? And they were gloating about it. And it's billions. It's billions. Okay, so if you're making billions of profit, how much of that money that we are paying to them is in profit? Okay, because profit tells me that the actual margins are the actual cost of doing the business.
Well, I think you got some good points about that, and I mean we'll stay clear of that.
All right,
and I think with house price, there's a lot of multiple factors of supply demand. And
no, there isn't.
Well, people argue, for instance, mass immigration. They say
the problem is in affordable property.
Right.
The reason we have a problem with property is affordable property. Now, the vast majority of people in Britain have a house over their head.
We'll stay clear of the politics. Keep it for the Sunday sermon.
All right, I know.
Yeah. We'll get you on for the Thursday.
Get me on Thursday. But the point I'm making is that there is no shortage of property because the vast majority of people you and I know have an abode to live in. Okay, if there were hundreds and thousands of people utterly homeless, not living in a house, then there is a property shortage, and the people who tend to be homeless have chosen that lifestyle. What I'm saying is that the reason that we can't all afford to buy a house is there's a lack or there's a shortage of affordable property. That's the point I want to make.
No, I get you. I mean,
and again, that is a product of greed and avarice. So
yeah, and it's so sad that a generation is it's also tying into the state of you will own nothing and you'll be happy. People aren't going to own the stuff. They're going to be renting. They're going to be just to scramble enough for the cost of living alone. But anyway, we'll stay away.
I just want to say one thing. Have you seen the properties that are being bought up in the States by BlackRock?
Yeah.
Have you seen?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And have you seen how much farmland Bill Gates has bought as well?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, there.
See all that. Yeah. But
power, money, and greed.
Blimey.
Bill Gates.
We'll bring it back to kind of people listening about greed. Let's talk about greed. What would you say is greed?
Oh, greed is it's one of the 7 deadly sins, isn't it? I mean, how many people know what the 7 deadly sins are? Can you name them? I actually made a list. Do you mind if I read that list out?
Yeah.
So 7 deadly sins. It's quite interesting because I want to just compare the 7 deadly sins to the 7 blessings. So the 7 deadly sins. It starts with it: greed, gluttony, anger, envy, lust, pride, and sloth. Sloth is laziness. Yeah. So those are the 7 deadly sins. And what they mean is that if you focus on those things in your life, then what do you think is going to happen to your life? That's why it's deadly, because it will corrupt and destroy not only yourself, but the world around you. And how many people can honestly say They're not greedy. They're not gluttonous. Gluttonous is also part of greed, but it's to do with food. Greed is about accumulation, having a lot for yourself. Gluttony is about eating too much. Anger, that speaks for itself. Now, interestingly, who knows what the difference between envy and feeling jealous?
Is envy? I do know. So jealousy is you want to be something or something someone
Close.
has.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then envy is you're not good enough.
You're close. You're very close. So if you're jealous of someone, you're happy for them, but you're jealous of what they've got. So let's say you've got a nice car, Rory, but I like you, so I'm really pleased for you, but I'm also jealous that you've got a nice car. I'm like, hey, Rory, I'm really jealous of your car. It's really nice. If I'm envious, okay, I don't like you. I don't like the fact that you've got a car, Rory. I want something horrible to happen to you because you've got that nice car and I don't have it. So envy is envy is a sin. We talked about sin in the last meeting, and again I said it's a very sort of untrendy thing to say, isn't it? No one likes to talk about being sinful, and here we are talking about the 7 deadly sins. Then lust. Oh my goodness, Pornhub. The world we live in is full of lust. I mean, I'm just shocked at, okay, you scantily clad women, but have you seen some of the stuff that's going on in the Grammys and awards?
Yeah.
I mean, what are they wearing? It's just bizarre.
Clubs, everything. It's
yeah. And then sloth, which is laziness, and slothful, just, not doing things properly, not wanting to do anything. That's a sin because it's so destructive. But the greatest sin of all, the greatest sin which controls all of those, is pride. And so that's quite an interesting thing. And so what I just wanted to compare that with was, so if those are the deadly sins, what are the life-giving blessings that we receive? So according to the Bible, the Holy Spirit, remember, if you have faith and you understand these things, we have a three-in-one God, Father, the Son, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Okay, and the Holy Spirit is the amazing power that gives us the strength and gives us blessings. And if you believe these things, I'm just talking about it as a Christian. I understand if it's not something that you're used to the language.
You can still take a lot from it. I think people who listen, who might they might say, oh well, that's nonsense or whatever. Like this. Still, regardless what it says in the Bible about virtue is
absolutely, and
priceless.
I think irrespective of how you see it, and whilst I'm couching it in very religious terms, forgive me, but I want to say that the 7 gifts from the Holy Spirit are wisdom, knowledge, right or good counsel, piety, which is like being holy and almost humbling, piety, understanding, fear of the Lord, and fortitude, which is strength and determination. So I'm just going to repeat those. The 7 gifts are wisdom, knowledge, right counsel or right thinking or advising correctly, piety, which is a purity of holiness, understanding, so being able to comprehend and see the situation for what it is. And this is interesting, fear of the Lord. Okay, now people think that means that you have to be petrified and run away from God. The way I see it, and the way that most people would see this, is that if you grew up with a functional family, most of us were pretty scared of our dads from the point of view that we didn't want to upset him. And the mum says, "Wait till your dad gets home," and you go and hide, and usually what you have would dad come in and look at you and go, "Oh, what have you done?" It's sort of. Yeah. But that fear, so that's the fear of the Lord. But you don't want to upset him. It's not being frightful of him. It's you just don't want to upset him. That's what the term fear is here. And then finally, fortitude, which is. Strength of purpose, strength of will, sticking to your word, saying if I'm going to do something, I work to do it. I'm strong in my ambitions to achieve things. And then finally, those translate, funnily enough, into the fruits. So this is how I see it. The 7 gifts, if you exhibit those 7 gifts, then the fruits of those, the result of those are are charity, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, generosity, gentleness, faithfulness, modesty, self-control, and last and not least, chastity, which is kind of part of self-control as well. So isn't that...
Wow, that is fascinating.
Isn't it?
Very, very fast. And also the contrast as well between a sin and what's good and how to live. And I think, like, you spoke about God fearing. I think that's something that over kind of keeps people at I don't know, in touch with reality, because you can do all those things of perception, but if you're God fearing, the intent has to be there. And that's the thing about God fearing. It's the outside can be great to someone, but it's the intent that is predicated on if they know they're being watched. I think. And,
St. Augustine said he had a very simple message in life: love God and do as you will. Now think about that. Love God and do as you will. If you love God, if I love my friend, I don't want to upset that person. I don't want to do something which will cause them grief, cause them harm. So I love my friend, so I won't do anything to upset them. But if I can do anything I want in the concept of loving God, then I'm restricted, aren't I, naturally, by not doing things that would offend God. So I think that was beautiful. But then Aleister Crowley, who was the epitome of evil, used that term but took the love of God out and said, do as you want. And look at the difference. So, and that's the world we live in. Do as you want. Everybody says that, don't they? You can do what you like. It's your life. It's your truth. You do what you want.
Your truth.
Your truth.
The most hilarious
God,
one.
I know.
I mean, that's the postmodern just nonsense is written out of that. I mean, that's when lies are not lies, good is not good, evil is not evil. It's your truth.
Yeah.
Like that ideology has ruined what young people think of morality. And Jesus is the perfect example of someone who is the perfect balance of all of these things. He's strong, yet he's gentle. He's kind, yet he's not boastful. He's magnificent, but yet he isn't prideful. It's the most incredible thing when you really think about the perfect human, because whatever we do, we are flawed. If we try and work hard, we run towards ego or validation of others. If we try and be kind, we run into admiration or like not being humble. If we try and be gentle, we could run into being
weakness, being weak,
being a pushover, not stand up for what you believe in, not being like a sharp sword. But Jesus was everything. He was, and just to think about that, of like an aspiration of what you want to be in life, about being all-rounded, I think that's something really powerful, and something that it's sad that so many young people don't see anymore. They're like, Jesus, he was just a nice guy.
Yeah, and did you see Jesus sort of driving around in a big chariot? Sort of wearing really nice clothes and things, and I think the point he's making is that, and this is something, there's a Bible verse, it'll come to me, I might look it up in a minute. Do not worry. It says in the Bible, do not worry. Look at the way the flowers in the field are clothed. Look at the birds. They don't want for anything. And part of the problem with our lives is that we worry. And I would like to suggest that worry is a sin, because what worry is it's saying, I don't trust God to provide for me, so I'm going to try and take it upon myself to do the things I need to do, and if I don't achieve them, I start to worry. Whereas if you trust in the Lord with all your strength, all your might, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways commit them to him, he will straighten your paths. But instead, people won't ever listen to that, and they'll try and create their own lives. And there's so many people who are very successful. They've set out there, but how many people have they stood on? How many? What has happened as a result of them achieving that success?
Yeah, I think that's something that's very powerful, because like I've seen people in, like I worked with someone who was an absolute nutter, and and he was a literal sociopath. You know, I worked with an actual sociopath, I would say, and it did give me the eye opening to like how many people get to the place they get to because they're so scummy. If you can compromise your morals and have no integrity, you can really do some work and like really. But at the end of the day, people who do that will not sleep at night. There will not be, at the end of their life, when they're sat on their deathbed, like, that's a scary thought. And I think it's it's interesting because do you know someone called Sam Harris? He's like the biggest atheist guy, and he does these tours about it. He's converted so many people to atheism, and I was thinking to myself, like, when he's on his deathbed, he, like, if he has a shred of thought that God is real, he is going to have the biggest like fear ever. And I feel sorry for some people because they don't know what's in for them, in the fact that like you're worth more than what you do. So don't strive for that. Strive for who you are as a human being. And it's something I've learned, and well, just life in general as being a young man, of how insecure and how like fixed I am, or like before I went to Taizé Christian retreat, I had a perception of like, I want to do this, I want to do that. Then I realized, oh wait, like I'm just a naked human being. I'm pathetic like everyone is, and it's what you do that's your value, not what you mask and what you plaster. And it's so difficult to do that, because when you do that, you are then open to so many terrible things. I don't really make sense. I always think of things in my mind when I'm saying them, but I kind of like jump. No,
you're making a great deal of sense, and I want to go back to the atheist side. And you know, I always say to atheists whenever I meet them, I said, wow, I'm amazed by you. You must be so intelligent. You must be so all knowing, because I'm just a stupid person who relies on my make believe friend. But you guys, you're just amazing. You know everything. You know everything, because you couldn't be an atheist without knowing everything. And again, I forgot my train of thought now. I was going to make a point about that. But the issue with atheists is, as I've said before, atheism relies on reason. And reason is the opposite of faith. So the fact is that an atheist can only see things through reason, and they can only see the world through reason. And that's the point I wanted to make. I watched, one of those like graphics that shows how something has increased and decreased, and how many people own cars in England, and it goes up and it shows the cars that are bought. And there was this thing about, it was a picture of Australia, and it was the religions in Australia, how they've changed. And right at the beginning, of course, it was Christianity. And then you could see sort of Islam come up, and atheism was right down here. And then as the years went by, it went higher and higher and higher. Atheism went up high. And now atheism is significantly bigger than Christianity in Australia. Wow. And I would say that's a reflection of what's happened in the Western world. But isn't that funny? Because I would love to run that graphic again with greed and all the wicked things that are happening in the world, and the situation we've got ourselves into now. And what I'd love to do is to show, run them on a parallel screen and see how atheism has corrupted the world to the point that the world now is in a place where, the vast majority of people are sitting there scratching their heads thinking, what the hell is going on? Okay, we really are in crisis. And if you don't think we're in crisis, then you're living on some la-la land. And how have we got there? So I lay that squarely at the feet of atheists. I say, what have you done? Your moral corrupting influence, people like Sam Harris, these people, they've corrupted society because they do as they want. They don't love God and do as they want. They just do as they want. And because you don't have that fear of God, you don't have that need to try to at least find some humility. And humility is very important, because I think humility is, it's one of the sweetest things, isn't it? So I don't know, I despair really. I despair, and going back to the fact that atheists can only think on one level, which is reason. The beautiful thing about having faith is that not only can I exercise reason, but I have the gift of faith as well. So I kind of look at them and think, you're slightly you're kind of slightly disabled, aren't you? Really, because you've got all this great knowledge, this reason, but you don't have that beautiful gift of faith. And actually, I feel sorry for you. I really do. I pity you.
Yeah. No, I think that's powerful what you said about reason, because the go-to thing when anyone says you're a Christian is like, oh, well, what, you believe in the guy in the sky, or you believe in this guy called Jesus. Yeah. And it's like the go-to responses should be, oh, so what do you believe? And they'll be like, well, I don't know, And it's like, what would you prefer? A clear direction, a virtuous, aspirational, all-encompassing, unindividualistic thing that you can focus on in life, even if you think is bollocks, or your little utopia, which is you're just trying to be right all the time. Because I think within atheism there is often a lot of ego. It becomes about being right and gotcha rather than actual like what are you doing? Because what's the alternative to religion? It's living for yourself. It's individualism. It's like not being God-fearing. You really think that's going to benefit society? What we need in society is a bunch of people who aren't afraid to do things when no one's looking. That's really going to benefit society. Morality, crime, that's going to help things, isn't it? But don't worry, guys. Everyone's right. Everyone's
a winner. Everyone's a winner. Have you seen that one? Everyone's a winner, and no one's a loser. I mean, I know an individual who's. I'm not going to mention his name, of course.
We've obliterated. If people were atheists watching this, I mean, I'm sorry to kind of be this insulted of you. I'm sure that it's lovely.
Well, it's not insulting. It's an observation, and I mean, if you find it insulting, that's your problem, isn't it? Really. But I know an individual who is. He claims to be a communist and an atheist. They, funnily enough, go hand in hand. You can't really be a Christian communist. You can't. And he's a communist, and yet he owns hundreds of houses.
That is no way.
And he's a landlord of like hundreds of houses. And he's a communist, and he's an atheist,
goodness.
And he's like kind of it's so the hypocrisy is just breathtaking.
Champagne socialist.
100%, 100%, yeah.
That is classic. So I mean, steering on to kind of people listening who are living their lives, and let's say they're thinking about what do I do with my life, with the world we live in, like jobs, because you have to you don't have to make money, I guess, but it's quite difficult to live without it, I would say. What's kind of, do you think about how someone should go about living their lives? And actually, where do you begin? Like coming out of school, like where do people start with that?
Well, again, it's about what your focus is on, and there's a conflict, isn't there, between wanting to live a life where you serve others and help others and work with others and benefit society, or where you work to benefit yourself alone. So that is the dichotomy of the conversation. Do you look to achieve for yourself? Now, I haven't got a problem if, like, you're a farmer. Let's take a farmer, for example, and he works really hard to produce really high quality food, and his food is of such a high quality and it's so nutritional, it's so good that people want to buy it, and as a result of that he becomes wealthy. Okay, I haven't got a problem with that. I think there's something really
it's serving other people.
It's still serving other people. Yeah. So the problem I've got is when you focus your life on trying to achieve wealth, and you don't care how you do that and why you do it, because it's all about achieving wealth. I think there's something intrinsically wrong there, and I think it's the point I want to bring up, because there's a couple of quotes again from the Bible which refer to this. If you don't mind, this is from a selection I put in. I think I put in something along the lines of what does the Bible say about money? And it came up with these. There's a lot more, but I just chose these. So this is from Ecclesiastes, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. Again, this is the reference from Solomon, Ecclesiastes. If ever you get a chance to read that, I highly recommend it. And the quote too, it is God who gives you the ability to produce wealth. That's interesting, isn't it?
Wow.
And that's, again, this is an Old Testament thing. The Old Testament, the Jewish view was that God's blessing was money. I'm not necessarily convinced about that because Jesus turned that on its head in many respects. But that comes from this. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today. Again, Old Testament. But basically what it's saying is, that makes sense, doesn't it? God created us. He's the creator, and He gives us the ability to make the wealth for ourselves, like I said. And in those days, that's what they were meaning by that. You cannot serve... Now, this is interesting. Again, now we're moving to the New Testament. You cannot serve God and money. And this is from Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. And the old word for money, which is in the old Bible, was mammon. And mammon was a god, was seen as a god of wealth, god of money. So you cannot serve God and you cannot and mammon. The next one is, this is interesting because it's more in line with what we're talking as well. Don't be greedy for money. And this is 1 Peter 5:2. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, serving as overseers, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not greedy for money, but eager to serve.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That all so powerful.
Exactly. And then
all just nail it. Absolutely.
It nails it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this is the final one. Whoever is greedy troubles his household. That's in Proverbs. And what that means, whoever is greedy for unjust gain troubles his own household, but he who hates bribes will live.
Wow.
That
is absolutely powerful. I think it's like also like the. So, for instance, the people I respect most are the people who are principled, kind, but they don't. Again, it's about the plaster thing, which I spoke about. They don't depend on money for their value and validation. They're a man or woman of principle, and I think that, like, even I'm not to say that like I'm even anything like that. I have when I get my paycheck in, I think about how unbelievably lucky I am. And the fact that I can buy food, I can eat food. And even if I live my whole life and I can't buy this or buy that, or like if I'm not like a super rich person who can buy a plane or whatever, like the fact I can buy food, just take how incredible that is, because it's an absolute blessing that I'm in a position where I can buy food. Like it's crazy. I'm 20 and I can buy food. Like it's a big deal. And I think, and I thought about it, like if I didn't acquire any more wealth to the day I die, I would be I am happy and content with that amount of money, because I know that me acquiring more money, I do want more money for family and stuff and like the future, because that's something that I think would mean more to me than anything, and what I want to do with the world. And
but that's an altruistic reason.
But but within that, and I could say it's an altruistic reason, but then I could say, well, am I lying to myself about that? I struggle with that. Do I say that because it looks good, or do I actually believe that? Or
but what you're saying is that you'd like to have the money to make your family comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. And that's giving to the other, it's giving to your family and making those who depend on you. And as a man or a woman who is in that position, it is our responsibility to provide those around us. So I think that's what you're saying,
Yeah. But I run into it because then I think to myself but I think the control of money is so dangerous. Like it fucks so many people up. And I think just thinking about the power of money and what you do, and think about if someone was to take my paycheck this month or take this, and let's say you can eat or you can live, how would I live? Am I getting my fulfillment and happiness through money? And if that is the case, you got to really analyze what's important in life and struggle, because I think part of life is struggle and suffering, and you need to lean on that and actually understand the perspective, because there's that millions of people in the world who have absolutely nothing, and like when you have money and you can just buy food, like you are so blessed, and you're living like a king or queen to so many people. And gratitude is the most beautiful thing, and it's very sad when you see people who don't value money like that, because it's like you don't understand. You're like a king to so many people. When people can't even acknowledge that they are a king in that respect, it's
look at it from this perspective. Okay, I think the average income in the world is something like $5 a week. Okay, I don't know the exact figure, but it's something like, if you took all the population in the world and you divided it by income, the average would be about $5 a week. Okay, so with that, we are kings. You know, we're just hugely wealthy and we think we're poor. Okay, I mean, there's a real disparity, isn't there? And it hurts. It upsets me that I can sit here and you know, you're just talking about how you can buy food and that makes you very happy. You know, there are people in this world who, I mean, it breaks my heart. I was watching this program about the Philippines, and there was this slum, and they had this food which they call it pag. And what it is, they go to the chicken places, like, you know, the well-known fast food chicken places, and the food that the people half eat and throw in the bin, they pick out the food, the bits of chicken that haven't been fully eaten. You know how people don't eat all the chicken, so they leave it. They pick that up, and they showed how they wash it several times, and then they make a really nice sauce and they serve it in some of their kitchens. It's called pag. Look it up. It's in the real slums in Philippines, and you know, I'm not going to go too much about it because it is heartbreaking. And you know what breaks my heart is when I see when I see children in poverty. You know, and yet it won't take a lot. And when you were talking about wanting to be altruistic and give, you know, the Bible talks about tithing, and I don't know how many of you know what a tithe is. Do you know what tithing is? So it says again, it's an Old Testament requirement, which is that we give 10% away.
Oh yeah.
Okay, a tithe means 10%.
Oh okay.
Okay, so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
what tithe? The word is 10%.
I think it does. It's an Old English term. I think tithe. You tithe 10%, and that's the figure that the Bible says. And it says, God actually says, you can look it up. He says, you know, what you give, I will return to you. And he actually says, test me on this. Okay, I will do this. And what I've discovered, again, and we've talked about this, about giving is better than receiving, is that when you can get to that point where you can give, but remember, just because I've said God will return or give to you, don't go around tithing thinking, all right, I'm going to give this because he's going to give me all of this. And you've got to tithe. You've got to give with a good heart. You've got to give because you really want to give, okay? And we were talking about wealth, and I was saying I met this gentleman ages ago, and he'd been super, super successful, again, in his life, successful. He'd made a huge amount of money, and he said he was just miserable. He didn't have any joy.
Wow. Wait, you should change that. Not successful. He was
unfulfilled.
Right, unfulfilled. There we go. Flipping it his head.
He was unfulfilled, and yet he had all this money. But how he found fulfillment, this is quite amazing, was he reverse tithed.
Wow.
Which means he lived on 10% of what he had because he had so much.
That's brilliant.
And he gave 90% away.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Incredible, man.
How cool is that?
Respect.
And I would always like to be in that situation. I'd love to be able to accumulate that kind of wealth. And I've always imagined that if I won the lottery or something like that, I'd love to be one of those secret millionaires. You know, I'd just like to watch families, you know, people really struggling, and then just go in and just drop some money and pay their mortgage or
but they don't know.
They don't know.
That's the key thing.
And I wouldn't want them. I wouldn't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't.
And that's the thing I think about kindness as well. Like you see some of these millionaires, they start these foundations, they got their name on it. It's like, you're really that virtuous? You're going to slap your name on it, get media coverage? Like, come on. Kindness is about, it's not kindness if people know about it to an extent. Like, I think that's so important, and that's absolutely beautiful. That guy.
It actually says in the Bible, when you give, don't make a big fuss. If you stand in the street shouting how much you've given, he said, don't expect anything back because you've already received it, because you've gone around told everybody and so everybody's happy.
That's amazing. You've already received it. That's powerful.
Yeah, that's in the Bible. It actually says that. It says, when you give, don't go around preaching about how much you've given, because then you've got it back. You've preached about it. Everybody's, well done, Rory, you've given that money, well done. That's it, you've got it back. Whereas if you give it in silence and you give it in, so nobody knows, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and you almost like that, you don't even realise you've given it away because you just want to.
And you don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it. You just give it away. Just like, do you need that? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And it's easy for me to say these things, and you must be thinking about me like, oh, Steve, I bet you do. How often do you preach how much practice what you preach? And I'd like to say, I'm not brilliant at it, but I try. Okay, and I think that's what God loves a trier. He loves someone who tries to make an effort. So, all I'll say to people is like, just stop and think about what impact your life is having on others. And if your life depends on you becoming super successful and achieving things, then
warp reality.
Well, you've got to warp reality, but the thing is, it's easy for us to say that, and it sounds like we're being very moralistic. But I think the fact is that is the truth of it. That is the received wisdom. That is why Jesus said to us, don't chase after these things. Don't try and make yourself super rich. Just you get more joy. You get more amazing gift to your life if you can actually make others happy. That's the most powerful thing, I think. Amen.
So beautiful. I completely agree. I think that and we're not sitting on our high horses here saying we're saying like we're some sort of Jesus people. We're not at all. We're flawed character. I mean, unbelievably flawed and got loads of things wrong with me. But we're just saying that the aspiration of what we want to be based on the Bible, based on virtue, based on kind of moral teachings, that's what we should all be striving for. And everyone listening to this, I think, can take something away from the fact of like, how are they living their lives? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? And I think it's something which everyone throughout their life, it's a struggle, isn't it? Because you're tempted with greed. You're tempted with, should I take this job? Should I do this bit of work? Should I do this, do that to make money? And there's a line, isn't there? If you have kids, well, should I stop working for my kids, or like, should I do something I enjoy but I want to provide for them? And there's so many different battles within that. But I think at the end of the day, you want to base your own worth not on vapid things like money, and so many people lean on it, and that's the issue. It's people lean on that for validation. They lean on that to plaster insecurity. And like, my brother is actually a good example of someone I really, really respect because he's not interested in money at all. And I've never met anyone who does not give a shit about money. Like, he does not give a fuck about money. And it's amazing because he's so free. So he can like pop to Germany, pop to Holland with £2 in the bank and have a good time. And I could not do that because one, I don't like to be the person who's asking for money from people. Yeah. But he's not controlled by money, so his brain is really kind of, the world is his oyster. He can explore so much in the world because money, it doesn't have a grip of him, and he wants to make a positive impact regardless of money. He's going into a law that you're not going to make good money for ages. He's in so much debt right now. I've gone into a lot of detail about him, but that's right there is like a type of man I really respect because he's not being controlled by money. And someone with a lot of money and someone who's listening, like, who, I don't know, is a banker or who is trying to, I don't know, do some shitty business that's not going to have a positive impact on anyone, and you just want to make money. Like I don't have that much respect for you because your end goal is just accumulation. You're not helping starving kids in Africa. You're not helping your common man. You're not making change to the world. And people can say that, it's not for everyone to kind of do that. And I appreciate it. It's not everyone's duty to be some sort of extravagant person who does all these things. But I'm saying, if you've lived a good life where you haven't had horrendous things happen to you, right? I think that there is a certain obligation to serve the community, to actually think about someone else rather than yourself. And to some people, that could be hurtful to hear. That could be horrible to hear that. And to those people, and if that's and if you are one of those listening right now and you hear that and you're like, I want to do this, you're wrong, and you've got this kind of anger, really think about that. Because I had a scenario, and I wrote a Substack on it, where I spoke to my brother, and he said to me, when I was focused on YouTube, making money and all that, and he said to me, "What the fuck are you doing, Rory? What are you doing with your life? You just make your little YouTube videos." And all I was doing was like, I would like exercise, or I would just, all I wanted to do was make money and like be good stereotypically around society. And that really hurt when I heard that. I was like, really, it hurt.
Did he say that your focus was wrong?
Yeah,
basically, because you were doing YouTube videos to make money.
And it is because I was ripping into him, and he kind of got triggered, so he just went into me. And it was one of the biggest blessings of my life, because I came away from that, and I really thought about what I was doing in life, and I couldn't even carry on doing some of the YouTube thing, because the only reason I want to do this is to make money. I don't want to do this for any other reason. And why do I want to make money? Because I get validation from others, because it makes me look good, because then I can have this, because then it's easier for me to do this, or to like,
you gain status.
Yeah, status.
Which is and status is one of the most like over. It's useless. It can't buy you anything. It can't do anything. It's just pride.
It can't buy you.
It's pride. Gaining
pride.
status is pride.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about bankers earlier on, and I think that's the most useless. Seriously, I want to tell you, if you're a banker, you really are functioning on the lowest level of human existence. Did you know what the collective noun, like you get a flock of birds, a gaggle, sort of, different collective nouns. I think it's called a murder of crows. Okay, collective noun. Do you know what the collective noun for bankers is?
No.
A one-off.
One-off. Bunch of bankers.
No, I said a one-off bankers.
Exactly. Bunch of bankers.
Yeah, exactly. You said it the right. You got it right.
Bunch of bankers.
A bunch of wankers. Yeah. It's a one-off. A collective noun is a one-off. Right. Yeah. Took a bit of while.
Blimey, I'm not very switched on today, guys. I really.
Sometimes don't get my jokes, Rory. I'm really upset.
No, I'm not good at it. But yeah, like about the story, that hurt. But it like I had to sit on it, and it's painful. And some things in life are very fucking painful. So I've been thrown a bit on it, but they're difficult to hear. It's not comforting to hear that you need to analyze your life and make change. I hear stuff that messes me up when I hear it, because I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I been doing? And the feelings of guilt, of shame, of all these terrible things. But sometimes you've got to work with emotions, and I think sometimes with young people, we're so sensitive all the time. We've actually lost progressing with pain, with suffering. And by the way, I'm not also discrediting people who suffer pain like depression. Seriously, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about when people try and help you and it hurts. That's not always a bad thing. And I've had so many instances in my life where it really, really hurt. And, a few months, years later, I'm like, oh my goodness, that was powerful. And us as a generation, not everything that's bad instantly is a bad thing. We apply it for so many things, may that be working towards job, exercise, but when it comes to actually improvement of what we're about, we kind of just disclude it, and it's like, oh, that's horrible. And actually it's such a key.
It's interesting you say that, because today I was having a chat with a friend of mine, and she was actually being quite open. And I hope she listens to this, because I was really, really, I'm not going to mention names or anything, but she really inspired me today, because she's been on a bit of a journey, and I have been praying for her, actually, because when I originally approached her to talk about God and faith, she brushed me off and said, I don't do that kind of stuff. I'm not into that. And she was very much on the kind of like new age spiritual. People call themselves spiritual. And I kind of like pull my hair out when people say that. I mean, I know what they're trying to say, but, it's this, what do you mean by spiritual? Well, and they can't really explain it, because it's all nebulous little.
All individualism.
It's individualism. It's about how I do yoga, or I do meditation, or I do various things. And I was having this conversation with her, and I was saying, the problem with a lot of these people in our society at the moment is they are so into their spirituality, but how do they exhibit and how do they practice that spirituality? And every time you'll find they'll be doing something. You have to do something to be spiritual. Okay, whatever it is, it's doing something to show others how spiritual you are, or to confirm to yourself that you're spiritual. And you see this, and she was saying that. And I said that to her, and she said, actually, well, yeah, that's what I'm finding. Everybody who says they're spiritual is doing things like, various things. And I said, the difference between being spiritual and having faith is that when you have faith, you can just be.
That's such a great point.
You can just be. I don't need to do anything to have the grace of God. I have it. We have, all of us are here literally by the grace of God. And I think the way that you show that is gratitude. You're grateful. I'm grateful for the grace that he gives me. So I don't need to do anything. I don't need to go and prove myself to him. And if you think faith is about going around and being holy and being, generous and giving, that's part of it. But that's got to come because you find that joy and that peace in giving that. And the most beautiful thing for me in faith is peace. And I find people who are spiritual don't have peace. Okay, they are haunted by things that they feel they need to do in order to find what they call bliss. Okay, now for me, peace is bliss. Bliss and bliss is such a sort of pathetic little word, isn't it? Bliss. Oh, bliss. It doesn't.
Also, again, it's so individual. That's the issue. It's just all like I feel this. I'm spiritual.
Exactly.
I need this for me. I feel this. I've experienced this. It's not. Oh, what about what about this person? What about that person? What about the community? No, I.
It is, and the other thing is that's come up a lot actually. And I've realised is this whole thing about manifestation. A lot of spiritual people want to manifest, and I'm kind of I look at them and I go, okay, so who taught you how to manifest? Oh, well, they'll come up with something. I'd say, seriously, who told you about manifestation? Who mentioned it first? Do you know who mentioned it first? Jesus.
Wow.
Okay, because what he said, and you can look it up. Ask look up how to pray, all right? And Jesus said, when you pray, imagine that you are immersed in what you want. Imagine you already have it.
Wow, that's powerful.
Okay, that was 2,000 years ago. Jesus said that, and now you've got people walking around saying, "Oh, well, manifestation comes from The Secret, the book, The Secret." So that's why and I just pull my hair out because what they're doing is they're recycling old truths that came out from the Bible and they're dressing it up in this kind of new age way and trying to make themselves special.
Yeah.
And I find that just so insulting, really, and embarrassing.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing, being special. Yeah. Again, I'm going to say something that's going to upset a lot of people, but I can't stand tattoos. Because if you want to be special and you want to get a tattoo, I think that's kind of sad that you think that beautiful skin that God has given you needs to be enhanced by a tattoo. Listen, if you've already got one, fine, you've gone and done it. But anyway, sorry. You're going to get a load of complaints now. We hate Steve. He doesn't like tattoos.
My view on toes has been neutral, actually. But it's powerful what you said also about, you're so right. And the recycling proverbs or love or whatever it is, we just see I heard it from Taylor Swift, I heard it from this person, oh my goodness.
Swift. Oh my
God. that's kind of the intellect sometimes.
Yeah.
But and also just to add as well, not knocking yoga because some great people do yoga. The thing is that the point I'm making about yoga is if you do yoga properly, then there's a connection to a spiritual world as well, which I'm not necessarily comfortable with. I think the point I'm making about yoga, again, it's very good for your body. It strengthens you, and it's a really beautiful thing to go into those exercises. But again, why are you doing it? What are you doing it for? Are you doing it? And I think some people, again, it's about being special, isn't it? Some people want to find that they want to make themselves special, so they do things in order to make themselves feel special. Does that make sense? Yeah.
You're not convinced?
I get what you mean. I don't know. I know good people do yoga.
I'm not saying bad people do yoga. It's just for me, it's just that I find that within that group of people who like to say they're spiritual.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of
people.
Of
people. It's kind of the new agey kind of,
There's also great people like that.
I'm not knocking anybody who does yoga. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could do yoga, but played rugby for too long and I can't even touch my toes.
It makes me feel sick doing yoga because it's.
I know. Maybe I should do it.
Crap out my body. But anyway, we've kind of really, it's been a very murky episode, hasn't it? We haven't really we've been kind of all around the place.
We have. We usually are, actually, Rory. There was a couple of things I wanted to read, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Just to finish off, and I had a little prayer, actually. Can I just make some quotes? I heard this, and I actually recorded it from the TV because it struck me so much. And we're talking about power, okay? And I've been watching Vikings, and there's a bit where, if you watch Vikings, there's the sort of main character, guy called Ragnar Lothbrok, who's extremely, powerful. He becomes king, basically. From being a farmer, he becomes a king. And he says this, it's quite interesting. He says, power is always dangerous. Let me repeat that. Power is always dangerous. It attracts the worst and corrupts the best. Power is only given to those who are prepared to lower themselves to pick it up. Wow, I thought that was quite powerful.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Isn't it? And it's often the way that those least able to wield power, those who want it most. And this is the story of our lives, really, at the moment. And it's been an interesting episode because there's a lot more we can talk about these things. There's a lot of stuff we can say. The root of all evil is the love of money.
Yeah.
Can I just read that to you? Because actually what it says, for the love of money, that is the greedy desire for it and the willingness to gain it unethically, is a root of all sorts of evil. And some, by longing for it, have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves through and through with many sorrows, which is quite an interesting take on that. So, so there we are.
Yeah, we've gone around a lot of subjects, haven't we? We haven't really had the same focus with individualism or the first episode, but kind of we're getting into the groove of things, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope that people have took value from this episode because, we make these and we hope it is insightful and it does incite you to do something. Something positive for your life, for the world, for the community. Get in a community, get active. Like that's what it's about. And this is episode 3 of a new show, so we're just kind of learning the ropes of what we're going to go into each week. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming here. It means a lot because the last episode was amazing to see all of you beautiful faces and the response. I had someone say to me, they I won't say who it is. It's someone. They think you're a complete crackpot with your views, right?
Oh, good, excellent, yeah.
so they said to me, I was like, I'll watch first episode, and they're like, oh no, I'm not watching. I was like, oh, just watch it. And he's like, I've not listened to that crackpot for 20 and stuff, kind of ripping into you. Anyway, listen to it, and they were like, oh, phenomenal. He said it was
seriously.
Yeah, he said
you turned him round.
Yeah, it was. He said,
oh my god.
He said it was therapy.
Seriously?
Yeah, that episode
oh, wow. That's so cool.
And he was reluctant to listen to it.
Oh, that's really good. Well, thank you to that person. I'd love to meet you and I'll buy you a pint. Can I just finish off with this? I felt this was pertinent to what we're doing, and I don't know why. Maybe this will resonate with you, but it's probably the most famous psalm, Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." It's often said at funerals, which I think is a bit unfortunate because actually it's a story about life. And I think it's just a bit melancholy. So I want to read it to you, and I want to give it to all of you as a blessing, really, because just listen to the words and think about it, because I think it's very powerful. So this is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd; I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Yea, even though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
That's beautiful, Steve.
Isn't it?
Really,
It is.
really, really beautiful.
It's so powerful, and I think you've got to contemplate the words in that and not react according to your worldly view. Really look at it. Look at the different translations. I read from the New International Version, which is not my favourite, but it's probably most linguistically available for most people.
Well,
Palatable, because it's not old language,
Right.
but it still loses something in it. The best version, if ever you want to read the Bible or just read Bible passages, is what's called the Amplified Version, where basically they've taken all the meanings of all the different translations and then tried to put them together so that you get a fully expressive term of what you're reading. So anyway,
Wow.
that's it.
Well, that was so beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Pleasure.
It means
Pleasure.
a lot. Yeah, really beautiful. And I hope that anyone out there who's suffering with anything, I really, really hope that this has been some help to you. At all.
Can I ask for people to pray? I've got a really important prayer request, actually, and it's been on my heart. You were talking about suffering, and I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this, but it's really upset me deeply, and I just want to explain that. My cousin's son in Australia, a young boy called Christian, he's been diagnosed with a condition. I think it's called CPS or something like that, and they can't work out where the pain is coming from. They don't know what the cause of the pain is, but the pain is so excruciating that he's screaming in pain on a regular basis. He is in absolute agony, and even the morphine isn't working. He's only 13 or 14, and it's a condition which is pretty horrendous. And when my mother told me today, I can't bear to see anybody suffer anyway, let alone someone who I know. I know him. He's the sweetest, most angelic boy. And I just would hope that if any of you could just pray for Christian, God will know who you're talking about. Steve's cousin's son, Christian, in Australia. Please just pray that he's healed. We need a miracle because I don't know whether they can find a cure for this, and I'm desperate, to find a cure, because it's anybody. It's not just because it's a family member. And I'd want this prayer for anybody who's suffering, really, but I wanted to bring that up if that's okay.
Yeah, no, hearts go out to him. Sounds absolutely horrific. And yeah, to anyone out there who is suffering with, all sorts, because horrific things happening and people, if you're going day to day, you're really suffering. Like my heart, hope I can stand with you in spirit. And could you? Is it right if you say a prayer?
Yeah.
I'd
like to. Almighty God, the Creator and Giver of good things, we thank you for the grace that is available to all of us. We don't even need to do anything to receive your grace. Place in our hearts a desire to be gracious and gratitude for what you give us. And sometimes, Father, there are times in our lives when we have to suffer, we have to go through pain. And whilst it's very trite for me to say that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, there are some people who are suffering so badly, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I ask you, Father God, that for those people who are suffering, and if they reach out to you and ask for your healing touch to resolve that suffering and bring peace, comfort, and joy into their hearts and lives. And I ask this in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. I ask that you answer all of those who reach out to you with a contrite, loving heart and want to know your healing touch. And I pray this, that you will not disappoint them when they reach out to you, Father God. And I know this of you. You're a loving, kind God, and I know that when we just reach out to you, you will answer us. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Please do share this with a friend or family member. It would mean a lot if because it's the only way the show grows. So please share it around.
And I just hope you share it because you want to bless others, and I hope we're a blessing to you. Sorry if we sound a little bit arrogant sometimes, a little bit opinionated and a bit didactic, but that's the nature of what we talk about. You know,
you can't not be.
How can I? I mean, if I sit here and said, yeah, what should we talk about then, Rory? Should we talk about the weather? It's going to be a bit dull and boring.
If you have an opinion on something, you have to. You can't you can't not cast judgment.
Exactly.
You can't not do it.
Yeah, but trust me, I try not to be judgmental. I'm not trying. I'm just trying to be observational and positively critical. So apologies if I've upset anybody, but well, actually not really. I'm not. I'm kind of like sort of. I'm sorry if you are taking it that way, but vast majority of people, I think, will see what we're trying to do, and I hope that you will feel comfortable in sharing this, and that maybe if you share it with someone, I hope it'll be like your friend. It'll be therapy for them.
Yeah, I hope so. And if you are listening on Spotify, give us a rating. And if you are listening on Apple, please leave a review. Even if you hate the show, leave a review. As I said last time, even if you think I'm a piece of living shit and you want to rip into me and call me a pathetic, ugly, stupid...
What did that guy call me? What did he... A crackpot? Or even if you think he's a crackpot.
Yeah, call me like, you know, I'm sure you can come up with quite a lot of insults. So yeah, please do drop a review and insult me. But thanks so much for everyone tuning in. It means a lot. I will catch you all next Thursday at 6 o'clock if you're tuning in for the political show. But if you just here for the Sunday sermon, then we will see you next Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. Any last words?
Yeah, just happy Mother's Day. Lots of love going out to all those lovely ladies who've brought about beautiful people into this world. So have a wonderful, blessed day.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Go mums out there crushing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, love you all, and we will both see you next Thursday.
Look forward to it.
Sorry, next Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the evening on Thursday. I fucking butchered that. Anyway, bye from me.
Bye from me.
Peace.